Well, with that, I think that's all the questions. We're going to turn the show over to Javier from
San Antonio Koi.
Okay, just making sure. So also we've got, we've been a couple of times at the koi shows and stuff, so a lot of good information to elevate your koi game. All right, thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank everyone for having me here today. I am the owner of San Antonio Koi, and we also have a website, sanantoniokoi.com. You're welcome to look at it. We sell koi. We do business from home. I do not stock a lot of this stuff, but if you need anything, I can ship out directly to your home. I brought some samples, and you guys are welcome to whatever you guys need. I will not be representing Nijikawa only. We're here to talk about nutrition and what really helps koi. That being said, I did not prep anything. My wife told me, she goes, you need to prep. I won't. Each one has a different setup, and everything has to be specifically done for that setup. And I know we have questions, and we'll get to that. My main focus is basically to inform and let you know basically what helps koi grow, what helps them thrive. Just like anything, we tend to do a lot for our pets. Let's say we have a dog, we want to get it fat. We get, this type of food, that type of food. If we like one of them more, we usually treat them more. That's just how it is. We do exactly the same thing with koi. So that being said, if we want to grow koi, we need to get good quality food. For example, you have an older koi, you can use 36% protein. You have a younger koi, you want to use 41 to 45% protein. That's going to help them grow, develop nicer coloration, grow faster. Now, the thing that I have seen personally, because we keep so many koi, is that we tend to overfeed. And that's a big issue. So that's where water quality comes in. So if you want to keep healthy, big koi, you have to feed properly, making sure that you don't overdo feed. That way your water quality doesn't suffer. So in actuality, everything goes back to water quality. Now, it does help to have good koi food. Why? Because you have nutrients that will not be necessarily in your, Tractor Supply fish food, and each one is different. So that being said, there's several brands that I like, that I have personally used, and I can say, you know what, these brands are good. One of them being Blackwater Creek, great food. Of course, Nijikawa. Hikari, Sake Hikari, that's more on the expensive, end. Really good food. And of course, Blue Ridge. Now, Blue Ridge, to me, it's more of maintaining your koi. It's not really meant for growth. It's just to make sure that, the koi stays healthy, even when they're older. And just like a human, we start, as kids, and we like to eat. Once we get older, we cannot eat that much, because then we look fat. We all see it. We eat, and we want to go to sleep if we have a big meal. It's the same thing with koi. What I have noticed is that if you feed really small amounts throughout the day, they'll be more active, and they'll thrive and get better coloration. So the key here is to feed. It doesn't matter what food you're feeding. You can feed the worst, just do it in small amounts, because that gives them time to actually take out those nutrients. Now, if you're feeding, it's just like humans. We have 2-3 large meals in a day, which, we all have done so. We go to the restroom, it's not pretty. We just excrete whatever we took in, period. Now, if you give it time to digest, that's the best thing. So it's exactly the same thing for koi. The other thing, make sure you do water changes. That's gonna help a lot. It's critical to have water changes. Why? If you have a large amount of koi, and if you're feeding, you need those carbonates to be in the water. You don't want your water to turn into acid. So you gotta make sure that you compensate. If you have a lot of limestone, in the pond, that helps a lot. If you don't, and if you're taking forever to do water changes, your water is turning into acid, and that's bad for koi. Who has seen their koi lose black or fade, or sometimes they just get like really red stripes on their backs? That could be just water and not really parasites. And all of that gets fixed with, a quick water change. Going back to the same thing, if you do provide good quality food, you don't need to feed as often, and you will not get as much waste in your filters. And the other thing, of course, you need to clean your filters. I know a lot of us, sometimes we procrastinate, when it comes to that, and all of a sudden we have sick koi and we wonder why. So, and it's just like any pet, you really need to take care of it. I mean, we don't leave a dog and just, have all the waste laying around. We have to clean it. Same thing with koi. I know it's the water garden, and you guys don't focus on showing, but that's one of the things that I believe we lack, even on the other club, we don't, it almost seems like we don't help each other, It's one of those things that we have a couple of winners yearly, and they win every year, but they don't share any secrets. And, it does come down to money, unluckily. We all know, maintaining a pond is really expensive. And, of course, if you want proper koi food, it's even worse, depending on what you are trying to achieve. But the best recommendation that I can give, feed really small portions, I'll say 4 to 6 times a day. I have a friend, he has 4,000 gallons, and he has 13 humongous koi, and he only feeds 4 ounces per day. 4 ounces per day. 13 large koi. 4,000 gallons. 4 ounces. I'll say probably a little less than that. A little less than that. 4 ounces per day.
Yeah, what is 4 ounces? How many pellets are
About 2 full.
for 13 fish?
Yes. Now, he uses Nijikawa, and they do great. They are huge. Now, the other thing, jeans also. But you have to do it slowly, and that's gonna get you the most growth and the most girth. If we try to do it too quick, water quality will suffer, and of course, they're not taking out those nutrients properly because they have so much waste in their stomachs. During winter, you want to use a 36% protein. Why? During winter, they usually don't digest properly because they go into a dormant state. If all that waste stays in there, they develop bacterial infections, which we see often around this time of year.
Do you use a 55-degree water temperature to not feed them in the winter?
I usually, me personally, I just stop feeding around November, and I don't start feeding until now. I am a firm believer that koi fish is a 4-season fish, and all that winter you shouldn't feed at all. Now, I will recommend if you're feeding, at 55 degrees, use a 34, 36% protein. Do not use 40, 41, 45, because if not, they are gonna suffer. I know they're hungry, and we usually see it too late. We don't really, they're pigs, they come to you, you feed, you feed, you feed. Next thing you know, within a week, you see a sore, they start turning pink. It's too late. And usually, we try to police ourselves. If they look hungry, we tend to feed. Is it proper? No. I have my show tank, which is where I grow my show koi, and I do more water changes, and I feed a lot more. Now, on the tanks that I have for sale, they're a little bit more skinnier, slimmer, but those koi are healthy. And same deal, in nature, they're not gonna feed on these. They're just gonna get their algae or whatever they can find on the walls, that's what they do. You can leave a koi for 3-4 months without feeding, it'll feed somehow. So basically, of course, exactly. So that's why, I go back to the same thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be Nijikawa. It doesn't necessarily have to be the highest, protein, nor the highest quality koi food. Just make sure you do it slow, and they're gonna thrive. And just make sure that, if you guys do water parameters, make sure that you always check your pH, critical. That way the water doesn't turn acidic and you end up, with sick koi, basically, because your water is too acidic. That being said, do you guys have any questions?
High core feed, they're like gluttons. They just want to eat. They're like eating machines. So, when do you know that they've had enough?
They never have enough. That's the thing. Look, that's the thing. With koi, and it's one of those things that I was having a conversation with Keith, right? Earlier. And we have people who like to show. And then, of course, we have people who want to enjoy koi. If you really want to enjoy koi, feed slowly. Small amounts. If you're trying to show, make sure that you have 2-3 koi in your tank, period. Nothing more, depending on the amount of water. Now, if you like to have 10-20 koi, feed really slow. Believe me, they won't starve.
Well, I have some friends that have koi and they have water lilies, but they get eaten.
Right.
And someone told me that if you feed your koi a lot, that the water lilies are going to get eaten because they're full of other stuff.
Feed them what they're looking for.
Look, and I'll be really honest with you, just like humans, we need certain vitamins and stuff. If they need that specific vitamin, and if they find it in plants, they'll eat the plants regardless. What I have noticed is that, let's say you start a new pond, and usually this happens a lot. You introduce a new plant, guess what? It gets eaten. And it's funny because they will not eat what was already there. So make sure, you've seen it, right? It's
A lot of times, there's certain plants like the floating plants, roots, duckweed, things like that, that if you put it in there, especially when you're feeding them, they will eat. But at the end of the day, a lot of people's water lilies get damaged, and then we're blaming on the koi for eating them, but the koi are actually rummaging through the rocks that are in that pail. But most of the time, it's because
I'll find leaves floating, so it looks like somebody's eating stems or biting at it.
right. And sometimes a lot of the times, koi will eat the stems and not the pad itself. And the reason will be also, remember, if you have dirt or any, something that's not rocks inside those pots, they dig. That's what they do at lakes. That's what they do at rivers. So they're tempted. They will just do it. Yeah. So this is what I tell everyone, because I have a lot of people that come over and they go like, well, your water lilies are gorgeous. I'm all like, look, do not put any soil in there. Why? Koi will come, knock it down, now you have a filthy pond. So you always use rocks. The other problem that we also see a lot, it's when you have pebbles on the bottom of the pond, That basically, all the waste that comes out of the koi goes to the bottom, stays there, and sometimes it's a lot of pounds of waste that gets trapped. And at one point or another, that's gonna turn into an infection. And it is critical to have a lot of water movement just to make sure that everything is getting picked up by the skimmers and the filters. The other thing that I also see a lot, if you have a water garden, and this is the way I try to explain it. You have a water garden, it's not a koi pond. I know it's kind of hard to swallow because, you go like, well, I have all these beautiful plants and I'm able to keep koi in there. Yes, but only to a certain extent. Koi are really filthy. You should have a bottom drain. You should have a skimmer. Most of the water gardens that I have seen only have skimmers. So guess what? All that waste stays on the bottom.
At least if you only have a skimmer, you have to keep that bottom area moving so that
Exactly.
doesn't waste out the bottom actually gets
Right. And the biggest problem that we see is pebbles. That water, if you have, another pump basically rotating that bottom, as soon as it hits those pebbles, it bounces off, and now you have all that bottom full of waste. So it's one of those things that you have to kind of tell yourself, what do I really want out of my garden? You can keep a couple of koi. We all get a ton of koi, and all of a sudden we don't need as many. Now we have to give them away. That's why we have the swaps and the auctions. So that's one of those things that we can be a little more selective. And I know it sucks to say it, but that's how it is. I mean, we see it. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you definitely want plants.
You do.
If you didn't start with the same koi in the pond like you're talking about from scratch, we're always gonna build another pond.
Well,
So, having a bog separate or having that's connected, the plants can do their job. You can still have beautiful show water lilies, and then you also have a place now, just like chickens, where you can throw those lily pads that are kind of turning into the other pond, and that's what I do, just for many reasons. But I've got
Right.
some koi in my turbo koi pond, and the only plants that really survive in there are the ones that are out of the water where the fish and birds can get.
precisely. And see, that's the other reason I didn't want it to get too fixated on food, because it doesn't work for everyone. And it's not just saying, I have the best quality of a product. You cannot. You can never. Just the fact that, let's say you're supposed to feed 3 ounces. And just because you want to get them bigger and, you want to show off, you start doing 6 ounces. So that creates a big problem. So it's basically what each and every one of you has, and I'll be really honest, what you can afford. Because these stuff can get really expensive. We all have seen it, the liner breaks. How much does it cost to repair a liner? How much does it cost to make the pond bigger now because you want more koi? So those are the questions that we basically need to answer. Not so much what am I feeding. Does it make sense to feed better quality? Yes. But in all actuality, it's what each one of you can afford and how pleased you are with your pond, So quality, going back to quality, let's say Nijikawa. I have a drum filter, and usually with less quality koi food, I see a lot of, I'll say like tiny little flakes. You get more waste. And they're all fillers. Yes, you look at the ingredients, and you don't want a lot of corn or cornstarch. You want to stay away from that. You want flours. You don't want the actual starch. Like they let me try to remember. So with corn, It cannot be digested. That's the thing. Now, on the higher higher quality koi foods, they use sweet potato as a starch. So that's what I'm trying to say about the type of flours that they will actually consume and will be more beneficial. Now, if you use corn starch, it cannot be digested. All of that is going to end up in your water, and it's going to make your pond filthier than it should. So, and the other thing is that when you have less corn, most of basically what's in the food actually gets taken in by the koi instead of just being excreted, through the rear end. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Now, I know most of you, like the plants and stuff, and it's something that even with the Koi Club itself, we don't get a lot of information. And the guys that actually win shows, they don't share any information.
Secret sauce.
What's that?
It's a secret sauce.
Oh, okay.
Just like barbecue.
Some of them actually fly
Some
to
of them,
Japan.
some of them.
Some of them fly to Japan to pick out their koi.
You know it, right?
Leave them there.
Leave them
and
there.
Pay them like show horses, and pay the people they just bought the koi from to keep them for
Year, 2 years. So I just watched the Vegas show that was online. That they did
Right.
last-
Yeah, you're welcome to. Yeah.
Yeah, last month, right? And I watched the Vegas show. The grand champion, all of those guys can keep their fish. They was in Japan. And just before the show, 2 weeks before, they shipped them here, shipped them to the States. And they'll tell you which farm kept that fish.
Somebody else is taking care of it?
Yes.
So, that being said, there's a gentleman out in Washington State. His name is Bill Tullis. He actually, he grows them. That's what he does. Basically, grows koi professionally. And I believe he showed probably like 30 koi, and he did really well at Las Vegas show. And he's shipping them out to customers now. So he takes care of them, brings them to the show. Customers come to the show. Once the show's over, he hands them the trophy, and then he ships the koi out.
And sometimes the people that own that koi never really get that koi because they're selling at the show.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Somebody put koi with, in the middle of the desert that has a 2 million gallon koi pond inside their house. It's like, oh, I'll take that one for 200 grand.
Yeah.
Or,
Exactly.
Like I think the record now is like 1.8 million.
$1.8 million.
Most of the time, those fish would eat a herring.
Look, the thing that sucks is that you can spend as much money as you want on a koi. It does not mean it's gonna thrive once you get it out of that place. So
The mud ponds too, right? They grow them in the mud. Mm-hmm.
So yes, well, that being said, going back to the same thing, I mean, I keep a lot of koi, and I don't have any rocks, I have nothing, I have seashells, right? Because I don't want those carbonates to go down. Now, if your pH drops, I believe it's 6.0 or so, your water becomes really acidic, and that's bad. You're supposed to be at 6.5 to 8 for koi. If you're higher, really no problem. You do not play with pH. Now, sometimes I have a 400 gallon, and I'll be really honest with you, I keep up to 200 koi in 400 gallons of water. But I have a ton of filtration. He's seen it. The problem there is not having enough, my pH drops usually drastically because I have too many mouths to feed, and all of that's getting consumed. So that's the other thing that you guys can do. If you don't have any rocks in your pond, if you don't have any limestone is really good, especially the softer limestone, that will release a lot of those carbonates into the water, which is great. Now, for people like me that do liners, I usually do a teaspoon to a tablespoon of baking soda with each feed. And that allows me to keep my water and my good bacteria without any issues.
What kind of, are you on city water?
I'm on city water.
You're near Congress, right?
Yes. So on when I do water changes, I usually don't use any dechlorinator. I do have dechlorinator just in case if I forget to close, exactly. If I forget to close the tap, my wife has, I have called from work and be like, hey, like I left the water running, would you mind doing something? It has happened.
Mechanical timers.
Right? It does has happened. So usually when I do my water changes, that's the thing. I have to do larger water changes because I don't have a lot of water to have all those koi. So what I do, I usually just take out 50% of the water or 25% or 10%, and I usually just trickle the water through my filter. I don't open the tap all the way. I just do quarter way, just let it do its thing, and it works. I have never had any problems with chlorine, burning their gills, and it's cheaper than going to Petco or PetSmart because whatever they have in there is really, really expensive. And usually those little bottles only treat like 400 gallons, and if you have 2,000 gallons, now you have to buy 4 of those.
Have you tried the RV filters? Like the
On the water, the ones that go into, I have a ton of those. I have them on all my hoses. But the thing is that even then, like they can only do so much. If you're running your water really slow, it does a really good, it removes a lot of that chlorine. If you run it too fast, it just doesn't. But, that's why, if you're doing water changes, just do it really slow. But water changes are critical in order to keep feeding more. So does anyone else have any more questions?
Different foods make different colors on the fish.
So this specific one has, Nijikawa has the color genesis, and that's meant to help all the oranges turn into reds, and it does really good. And it's only focused on coloration. It works.
What's the color genesis?
Yes, that's what it's called. And the thing you gotta know about color genesis is that it's not a fast-acting food. There's a couple out there. What I have noticed that when you try to do it too fast, you actually lose color, or you start getting secondary Benny, which so you have really nice spots, right? And your koi looks beautiful. And you start doing it too fast, now you have an extra spot of color, but it's not as deep. So that happens. So you want to do, they did a great,
That's important for people that show the fish.
right. But if you want a better, color, even on your pond, you can, like I said, you don't necessarily have to feed a ton. The easier, slower you do it, the better conformation, skin quality, and just about everything else you will have. Because I tend to grow koi quick. Like I got, just so those karashi, right? The babies last June, they're 20 inches now within a year. So 6 inches to 20 inches within a year. Am I happy? Yes, I'm happy because of the growth. But if you grow them too quick, you will lock on good coloration. Because now the scales are too far apart, And usually when you feed a lot for koi show, what you want to do is just bulk them up. They get really big. They lose some coloration. And then you just give them like 15 days. You do a lot of water changes and you let them shrink. You don't feed for 15 days. And as they shrink, you start getting better coloration. It's...
You're a koi guy, so what's the difference between when someone says, oh, I've got Japanese koi or everything else?
So that being said, absolutely nothing. Nothing. Now, I will tell you that there is genetics, and they do play a big part. A quick example, you have Mona Lisa, you have Super Monster, and all of these koi are 1 meter long. They're humongous. But the thing that you gotta know about koi is that it's not like a dog. You have a really nice female, gorgeous male, You end up with beautiful puppies. With koi, 99% of those are going to be not perfect, and then you're going to have 1% that actually looks like the mother and the father. So it's kind of hard to explain, because koi, you got to think about thousands and thousands of offspring. That's just exactly each time. And out of those, really, and the other thing that you have to understand is that Japanese keep the best. They're not going to give us the best of the best, else they'll go out of business. And that's why a lot of people go out to Japan to look for that specific koi. That's just how that works. Is there a difference? No, there's not. They just got so good at picking which ones look better. That's the only difference, really. Now, I do sell Blue Ridge butterfly. Blue Ridge creates the best butterfly out there. Even Japanese don't do it. They don't like butterfly. They like producing the long fin. Yeah, they like producing the standard.
Does Blue Ridge create butterfly koi?
You know what? I'm not really sure about that. They claim they did. Honestly, I have brought in koi from Suda, Japan. I have done Blackwater Creek. I have done Urso Koi. He's out in Florida. The best ones have come from Blue Ridge.
They're in they get cold water
From the mountains, and yeah.
Best moonshine.
And see, that's the best, because that's what they get in Japan.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And I'll be really honest, what makes those koi is that you have all that, ice melting. As it comes down, it brings down all those nutrients from the ground. That's what we lack in pond liners. Pond liners, to make up a pond. You don't have all of that. So the other thing that you can do, buy some clay. You can get bentonite clay if you want to keep it cheap. You can buy certain, brands. Bentonite is dirt cheap, so use that, and you just use a teaspoon. You don't need a ton of it. If you add too much, it turns brown.
That's my pond. But if we use well water, does that have nutrients?
Now, yes. So to me, honestly, the best thing, it's well water. Our water is really hard, so you end up with a lot of good blacks. Just make sure. Have you heard of a trickle in, trickle out water change? Basically, what you do is you just trickle water in, and as it goes in, it fills to a certain level, and that trickles out. So that's the best thing that anybody can do for their koi if you're on well water. Now, if you're on city water, yes, it helps to a certain extent because you have, fresh water all the time, but still you need to compensate with, higher, mineral, basically minerals, and that's what gives you the good coloration. It's not so much the food, it's just to help out the skin. It's just like, we put lotion, or we try to help. That's exactly the same thing.
So kind of moving on, as we go through summer, the water is going to heat up, right? And it gets really, really warm. Is there a point where you quit feeding the fish?
I personally don't.
You feed them all through?
I feed, and I'll be really honest with you, when it's 80 degrees, I feed the heaviest, but I do the most water changes for my setup. Now, this is what I tell everyone. You have seen it, we get insane growth, right? Really happy with growth. Is it the best? No. What you want, you just grow them slow, and you just let genetics do their thing, just let them enjoy themselves, because a lot of the times I go out, my pond, I have a 6-foot deck, a 30-foot by 10, but it's 6 foot high. So when I look at my pond, it's down there. Every single time I go to my deck, they all come rushing, and they're just hungry. It's not that they're enjoying themselves. I just think they're getting stressed. What was that? They like me a lot because I feed a lot. And like I said, that's it. I mean, and see, the thing is that I bring a lot of koi out for customers. So when I'm up there, they love me, right? Because they know I'm gonna feed. But when I go down, they know I'm gonna catch them, so they just stay away. So yes, it's actually, you know, it's love with interest. They want to be fed, but no, you can never satisfy the hunger of a koi, really. So now this is the other thing. A lot of people think that, you know, you have older koi. They're graceful, they move around, you know, they do like everything a koi should be doing, and they don't come as quick to get fed. And it's not that they want to be fed, it's just that they're older. And, you know, they just like humans, you know, if you're feeling sick, you don't want to eat. You know, you want to take it slow because they're animals and they know exactly what's going on. So, and that's the other thing. We tend to think that, you know, if a koi is not coming or rushing to get food, it's sick. No, sometimes they just need to, you know, take their time and not overfeed. But each one, you know, each one goes through something different because all ponds are different.
I'm just still trying to get a handle on how much would be the optimal amount to feed them, because I have about 40 fish, and I have a cup about this tall, about that round, and I give them 2 of those.
2 of those? But for the amount of koi that you have, I think it's fine.
Isn't there a rule of thumb that if you throw in enough food that they eat it in 30 seconds or something? I remember hearing a number like that.
10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, they say 10, 15 minutes, but
Yeah, in 15 minutes, they eat it. It's fine.
so that's what we have to understand. No, it's I will have to say no to all of those. No to the amount of time, no to the amount of how much food you can feed. Because you can feed 2, 3 times that, but is your filtration able to handle it? Now, that's one thing. The other thing will be, they're not really, I mean, they're taking in so much that it's not being digested. So the way you want to think about it, when we eat, if we chew everything, we digest most of it, right? But if we take big bites, you end up, you know, with big bites in the toilet. So
I think we had somebody doing like a thing on buck, and they said that 30% of their weight they don't excrete like in a day. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
it's true. Believe me, it's a lot of waste. A lot of waste, especially if you end up with, if you have a drum or if you have a way. I have another pond, and I usually use, you've seen that mesh that I use. It's 100 micron mesh that I use, and all my water goes through there. You won't believe the amount of weight that comes out. It's a lot of waste, a lot of waste. So that being said, you feed smaller portions, they actually take most of that in, you end up with a lot less waste. So that's the thing to consider. But no, it's not necessarily feeding a ton. Just do it slow. And you know, what I have noticed is that if you don't keep an obese koi, because basically we make them obese, that's how they get so big, they're happier, they're healthier.
It's also like, if you have to think about like what you would feed a dog, like your average 30-pound dog probably eats a cup of food, maybe 2 cups of food a day.
Right.
Well, the fish are not 30, 40 pounds. Also, they have very simple digestion systems, unlike mammals.
Exactly.
So, you know, you don't feed them like a cup per 40 pounds of fish because they don't digest it that well. So, you know, like when you say like 2 cups times 40 koi, most of them are this big. Those koi probably weigh 10 pounds each. So.
Now, I'll be really honest with you. If you feed a lot, you start getting that belly and it just drops. It's all waste.
Okay, so that's a sign that overfeed.
Right. It's all waste. And we have all seen it. You know, you have a koi that it's not growing, but you see that belly, it's like that big.
Question for, okay, so I feed, I've fed my fish like Tractor Supply stuff, the aqua, they have different stuff, they have some for like catfish.
The breed is much better
Yes, plus Purina.
It is Purina.
Purina.
Which one are you using?
It's Aquamax, it's for the pondfish, it's not for the catfish.
Is it the $50 or the $80 one? Get the
But I
80.
mix it with this Kaylee. Have you heard of Kaylee?
No.
Okay, it's something like that. Kaylee. But anyways, I guess that's,
Look,
you can get a whole huge bag. I think
Nice.
it's a pound bag, and then this other stuff comes in a little bag, so.
oh cool. So look, out of the Purina, I have used just about everything there is. You know, they have that cat food that's only like 20, 30 bucks. That doesn't work at all. I have used the Purina, and they have, I believe, the 3,000 or 300, and then they.
3,000 or 5,000.
The numbers are how big the pellets are.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure on the pellet size, but I usually use, I believe, the 5,000 or the 6,000. Yes, about $80. Believe me, if you're paying $80 for a 50-pound bag, that's still dirt cheap. And just make sure that you get the one that's 41% protein. You feed less because you have more actual nutrient. Look, what koi need more than anything, it's protein. And then of course, you know, if it comes with all these extra, you know, coloration or minerals.
Soy is good.
Perfect, yes.
Fish meal is good.
Fish meal, perfect, yes. So you always want on your label to have the most fish meal or any type of protein.
And corn less.
You want, yes. Now most, and I'll be really honest with you, these guys claim to have no corn, all of them have corn. Just to make sure that the pellet holds together nicely. So all of them will have it, but the main focus is to actually have higher protein. And then of course, you know, any fillers, try to have them at the end as possible. And that's what it comes down to. When it comes to koi food, most of the good brands, you know, that's what they do. They just add a little less of those fillers. And that's exactly what it is. Now, of course, fish meal is gonna cost you more than corn, so that's why the price. But Purina, 41%, great koi food, yes. And, you know, no, it's good. So, you know, I was asked, you know, to come and, you know, talk to you guys about not buying from you know, Tractor Supply.
Yeah, 'cause I'm not gonna show
But
I won last year's butterfly koi.
if you can, go ahead.
Exclusively.
Stupid question of the day.
Purina cat
Do
food.
large koi eat the smaller koi?
Never.
Really?
No, I've never seen that.
Do they eat smaller little fish?
I really doubt it. We keep a lot of koi. I have never seen a larger koi eat a smaller koi. Now, they will eat the eggs. If they just finish spawning, they'll eat the eggs. But once they hatch, I'm pretty sure only by mistake, but they will not eat their young, like once they're born, once they come out of the egg. They will eat the eggs though, for sure. That for sure. But no, I have never seen, you know, I have brought in like, you know, half-inch koi, you know, tiny little things. And
Well, I imagine our koi spawn in our pond, but I've never seen little ones.
so that's the thing. So when they spawn, honestly, I believe they just eat all the eggs.
Oh, okay.
And they're good at eating the eggs. So if they spawn and if you're not seeing fry, it's not because they ate them after, it's because they ate them. Right. And you go ahead.
You stressed a lot about the water quality. How often do you test your water?
So I try to test every 2 weeks. The reason I do it is because I do large water changes weekly, so I don't give it time to hurt. You know, I don't give the water time to go low on carbonates or to have my ammonia too high. That's why, you know, if you want the proper koi pond, that's why you do a trickle in, trickle out. That way you keep fresh water 24/7. So that's the other question that I get a lot. People come over to the house, and sometimes they go like, well, you know, you have a really large selection and you have a lot of koi. How do you manage water changes? That's
Where's your fish at? San Antonio?
yeah,
Or Con-
out in Converse. Yeah, and if any of you want to come over just to check it out, you guys are more than welcome. I do get a lot of people that come in, you know, and just to talk about koi, and I'm always happy to have, you know, anybody. We sell fish, supplies. Like I said, I don't stock anything at home. I just ship out because we run it from home. It was.
Did you have a warehouse? I think I read what it is a long time ago. Did you used to have like a warehouse somewhere at one time? No? Okay.
No, we have always run, and you know, I'm really happy about, you know, our business. I always wanted koi, and honestly, I couldn't afford it. So, you know, 4 years ago, I decided to build a small koi pond. You know, went out and rescued a couple of koi. You know, I got pretty good at growing them and at building my own filter systems that, you know, I started buying better koi. And this past year, I bought 4 high quality females, which, you know, the Mona Lisas and all the high end Japanese, which I want to breed. So hopefully we can do something there. And, you know, the other thing, if any of you, and the same deal with the other club, if you guys ever need something, you know, just let me know and I'll try to find it for you. We try to be really reasonable. And Marvin knows that, you know, for the quality and what we get, we do really good on prices.
I love Asagi, so he found me two Asagi. Hey, maybe by mistake he gave me a male and a female.
Are you a butterfly guy?
The standard.
It's like Asagi.
You're traditional.
Yeah, and I got 2 of them in my pond. Well, it's 2 years ago I got them. Right?
They're beautiful.
They're the biggest koi in my pond now.
That female, she's hopefully, yeah.
Are you using this food?
Yes.
Yeah, he uses. And how much do you feed?
My wife usually go out about 3 times a day.
And are you feeding?
Morning, midday, and at night.
Do you do small amounts?
Yeah, just
That's about, yeah,
about one of those cups.
yeah.
How many fish do you have?
Right now I think I have 21 of them. That's, well, you know, it's 8,000 gallons.
Right. But see, I'll be really honest with you. What he's saying is about, you know, 4 ounces, and that's a lot of koi. Now the thing is that they grow,
Yeah, they grow.
so it's not necessarily feeding so much that gets you that growth. It's just doing it properly. Now, that's the other thing. Even myself, I don't have the time, you know, to come home and feed the koi 4 times a day. So usually what I do, I try to either feed really early, you know, like this, or an automatic feeder. So I try to do at least a couple of hours. Let's say if I feed, you know, like this morning I was up at 5 o'clock, so I fed. Then my water changes. After the water changes, 2 hours later, I fed again. So just give it time at least for that koi food to actually soak and start digesting, which is something that, you know, we see them hungry and, you know, we're all guilty. We have a small, you know, cup, we throw it in, it's gone within, you know, 30 seconds. You just go back, you reach for more, you throw it in. You know, it's not necessarily the best. So just feed slow. I mean, and you don't spend a ton of money. I mean, well, koi food is expensive, but what I'm trying to say is that you just feed smaller portions. Even with the Purina, you know, do the same thing. Don't overfeed.
A friend, he gave me some perch, you know what perch is, and I put them in there in the pond, because I'm a big, it used to be like a clay bottom pond, and these things just like multiply. I'm taking like, you know, 50 of them out at a time.
Right.
But yeah, so they're eating like the food that the koi should get.
Right.
What was the question, Larry? We can't hear. What was your question?
Oh, no, I was just sharing with them.
That he has perch and right. So the other fish are, you know, eating most of that food instead of the actual
Perch is like goldfish, you know, goldfish, so you go to the pond.
Yeah, real quick. You know what's weird? You throw the food in there, it's like a magnet.
Yes.
You know, it seems like a magnet with iron, like things. You put the food in there, it's like a magnet. There's
Right.
so like that. I mean, it's just hundreds of fish.
And that's the thing also, when the more fish you have, that's what you're gonna see. So if you just have a couple of them, exactly. And they do that because they all want to feed, you know, and they're trying to get whoever gets there first is the one that actually feeds. So, but that's how I like doing it, especially like we feed a lot because of growth. I'm obsessed with growth, but you know, for the average, you know, pond keeper, small amounts, and they go a long way. Even in Japan, they tell you, you know what, just do small feeds. Why? Because they actually intake more of that.
Following you, like, looking all hungry and stuff, I say,
Don't, exactly. And look, you're gonna, and that's the thing, I mean, you will notice it, you know, you will notice it, you know, you will have better coloration, your water will be less murky if it's murky. Make sure you know, keep a nice UV light, you know, if you have too much sunlight, that helps a lot. But it does in water quality, and that will transfer back to the koi just looking better and being more active. Any more questions?
So what do you feed your fish?
I feed a little bit of everything. So the reason why, and I'll be really honest with you, I really like, you know, the Purina. Like I said, Purina, but try to get the 41% protein, really good. Masuri, if you guys are feeding that, it's not bad. It's
What
not.
about Cheerios?
I like Cheerios. Yes, feed Cheerios. Cheerios are good.
My pond's an old one, it's got rocks on the bottom. And it's got the fish muck in there. Should I take those rocks out and vacuum that out, or get that muck out of there?
Look, we get a lot of people that, you know, we service their ponds, and we end up just removing all those rocks.
Yeah, take the rocks out the best.
It's the best thing.
Okay, so you do that. The muck, okay, I'm hearing different stories about muck, okay? Is that you want to take it out because pathogens and stuff.
Exactly.
But then someone was saying that, oh yeah, if you take all of your muck out, then you take it out all the bacteria, and then you're going to have like maybe an algae bloom a month or two.
You will. But we have all seen these. If you have a brand new pond, it actually takes a while before it's fully established. And it doesn't take 6 months.
2 years.
It takes, yeah, and we have all seen it. So removing the rocks, for as long as you leave alone your walls, and if you have filtration, of course, just leave it alone. It does help, because the thing is that you don't necessarily get an infection all the time, right? But that waste being there, at one point you will get an infection. And it's just like, you know, let's say, you know, we're all living in this room and we just, you know.
Well, does it make sense then to maybe just take out a certain percentage of the stuff and leave some of the
You can definitely do that. But the other question will be, is it heavily stocked? Okay, so yes, I'll say yes to that.
When's the last time you actually drained it down and like cleaned it?
Or
Vacuumed
you're right.
box?
Never.
Look, you're gonna
There's a balance in that.
look, and you end up with muck. You know, it's like a really thick layer. It's almost like a clay. It condenses so much that it turns into a clay, and it smells bad. It's all waste. Unluckily, it's all waste. Any dead plants, anything that can find their way in there, it will stay in there. That's the thing. That's the only thing that I don't like about rocks.
When they have their ponds clean though, that people that they'll come in there and take everything out and then pressure wash it and take everything. So that's taking out all of the beneficial bacteria.
So,
Because there's still beneficial bacteria within the filter, within the rock.
right.
So you're not going in and like sanitizing. Like, I've seen people do that.
So look.
Not put anything. It's just don't use the pressure washer that you used to pressure wash your driveway if you put soaps in there, right?
Right.
High powered water. Yeah.
Bleach.
Yeah, it'll definitely get rid of all the pathogens. But,
So-
you know, so that
so
you don't
I-
want to sanitize the pond ever unless you're keeping koi
Right.
in a dog show type of way or show type of way.
And if you over clean, that turns bad really quick. Because if you over clean, it turns bad within days. It's no koi. Your koi will start dying. Because I mean, it's the way I like to see it is that a pond, just like the earth, is alive. For example, we're lacking on oxygen, so the atmosphere tries to find a way to, if that area doesn't have enough, you get a more wind, or if you got rid of all these trees, now you have warmer weather. So it's the same thing. It tries to compensate. So that being said, you try to do everything slow. You feed slow, you bring in koi slowly. Let's say you want to overstock. If you want to overstock, bring 3 koi now, 3 koi later. Don't bring 20 fish at a time. That's how that works, and that's gonna make you a lot happier. Just doing everything slow. When you do water changes, if you're starting doing water changes, just do 10%. If something's wrong, do a 50%. But even then, you're already playing with your nitrates, your nitrites, your ammonia. And now, just by taking water out, also remember, you still have good beneficial bacteria free floating in that water. So if you take that out, you're also losing good bacteria. So quick story. I had a customer 2 years ago. He calls me. He goes, I heard you were the best. I'm all like, the best at what? He goes, I'm losing my koi. I'm all like, I'm not coming in. I won't. He goes, why? I'm all like, once you start losing koi, it's a big problem. Because you may lose one now, you may lose one tomorrow, you may lose all of them tonight. I told him, I'm not coming in. He goes, you have to. He goes, I called a veterinarian out in Dallas. He can't make it all the way out here. I'm all like, sure, I'll come in. I brought my test kit, tested water tested 100%, did a scrape, nothing, couldn't find anything. This is what I saw. The pond was extremely clean. I asked them, who's cleaning your pond? He goes, this gentleman. I'm like, how much is he charging? Not that I want to know, I don't care. He goes, he charges $250 per visit, and he comes twice a week. I told him, that's your big problem. I'm all like, we're gonna do a 50% water change today. You just leave everything alone, don't feed for the next week. Within 2 weeks, everything went back to normal, no problems. So, too clean.
The water will stay clear if you put chlorine in it.
Right?
What about salting the water?
So salting, I don't salt, especially if you have a pond with plants. It's going to kill your plants. Now the other thing is that, going back to Japanese salt a lot, and a lot of the bacteria is becoming resistant to salt. Why? Because they salt. Before it used to be that you wanted to do like a 0.03%. Now it had gotten to 6%, which is high. And yeah, no, it's, if you have ever tasted that, it's salty. I don't. If I am, let's say, your koi stick, right? Do a bath. Don't salt the whole thing. It's a bad deal. The thing that sucks about salting is that if you have 2,000 gallons of water, if you want to get rid of that salt, you have to take out 2,000 gallons. If you take out 50% of that water and you replace it, you still have 50% of that salt, and salt never goes away. So that's the reason I tend not to do it. My koi do great without salt, unless I have to, just do like a bath, and that's all I do. And the main thing that's gonna keep them healthy really is just proper feeding. Yes, feed slow, small amounts. And that's gonna save you a lot of problems. And the other thing, as a person, figure out, you know what, it's overstocked. What can I do? Do I have to get rid of some koi? You know, and go ahead and, yeah, just swap them, or, you know, there's always somebody looking for koi. You know, we all know that. Exactly. But there's always somebody.
You know, once you put salt in your pond, if it's over 0.1, then you can't use any medication.
Now, that's the other thing, yes.
Yeah, because
But if salt in the medication, you know, will react to it.
well, you also, so they're freshwater fish. If you put a truly freshwater fish into salt water, it will dehydrate it. Like all,
Right.
so with osmosis, all the fresh water that will leave the fish and get replaced with salt water. So the fish will essentially dehydrate, even though they're in water.
I just heard that salt helped their slime go.
Yes, it does. But look, if you ever want to do salt, let's say you have a big problem, you cannot just leave the salt there. A lot of people do it. I don't recommend it. It's one of those things like let's say, you know, 50% of your koi, you know, are sick. I'll say do it, but then every 2 to 3 days, take out 50% of that water and just start getting fresh water. You want to do that and make sure that within 2 weeks, you have no salt at all in your pond. That's going to help your koi. And of course, just the fact that you're putting new water, fresh water, it's going to make them get better.
Maybe the fresh water, that's helping.
And at the end, that's what it comes down to. It's water quality. Water quality. So
We put some salt in the pond at 0.9, 0.9.
right.
My husband does that.
Does he do it yearly or?
Well, he'll check it periodically. Every few months he'll check it. If it's low, we'll make salt. And then he puts it in, so it's, I think he says it's 0.9.
Right.
So to make sure.
And see, the thing is that salt is not really bad. The only thing that I have noticed is that if you do salt too much, it gets to the point where if they really get sick, nothing works. It's
Think of it like a natural antibiotic.
and that was the reason. I mean,
Continue to take
Right.
it all the time, then it may not work.
it may not work when you need it to. So the other thing, going back to the same deal, just having the right amount of koi for the right amount of gallons of water. That's the best, you know. And at that point, you can feed as much as you want. So, but basically, that's how that works. And you know, you guys are free to look me up on Facebook. If you guys have any questions, you know, send me a text. I did not bring any cards. I know. I'll make sure to. No, she doesn't have them. She told me this morning, she goes like, if anything, take a picture of that. We are having a sale on the 5th of May, and we're gonna have an auction also, and we're gonna have probably about 800 koi that we're gonna.
What's the name of your,
San Antonio Koi. And you can also,
get on Facebook? Say that-
yeah, just check us out. And it's under the, that right there. If you see that koi, that's who we are. Yeah, go for it. And we're having that sale on the 4th and 5th.
Have you
Yes.
these on free sample?
Yes, they're all free samples.
Is there a difference in them? Are they different things or what?
Yes, and I'll explain that right now.
What's your phone number?
It's 562.
562. Oh wait, 562? That's long.
California. That's, yeah,
My prefix too.
that's cool.
Okay.
457 75 58.
562-457-5758.
7558. And anything. Oh,
You sign. Yep. Got it.
You want to see what kind of fish you have too and stuff? I mean, where
It-
do you get that?
look, you may go to sanantoniokoi.com. I have some fish posted. I don't really do a good job at posting new koi. It's usually on Facebook. Whenever we get new koi, I just post and people come. People like new, so usually we have a lot of sales when new fish come.
I'm afraid he lost all of his fish, he was redoing it, but he had it in a tank and they all died. So, you might be looking for some.
But yeah, we are. If we are gonna have a ton of koi. We're gonna start them at $5 and up at the sale. So if you're looking for decent koi, it's on Lookout Run. It's Judson and 35 North.
Lookout Run?
Huh?
Lookout Run, that's like your house, right?
No,
Is it better to fry or bake koi?
look. Well, I'm gonna tell you one thing. I have eaten carp. I like it fried. I wouldn't take a soup, it's too bony. So look, we have the Four Seasons, which is basically at 35% protein, and you can feed these basically year round. We have the growth. This one, I believe it's a 41%. And this is basically what everybody gets for growth. And that's what Marvin uses. And it's really good stuff. It does come on a 15-pound bag. It's $90. The thing that, you have to really understand and trust, and it's hard to trust, that you have to feed only certain amount. Like I said, even if you have a large number of koi, you just do 4 ounces, which is, that much per day. And it does last you a really long time. And just the fact that you're not overfeeding or feeding too much is gonna help with your water also. And the thing about, any of those foods is that you get girth. You get that growth. You get, you see shows and they look all bulky and nice and you go like, how come mine don't look like that? So this stuff does that for you. And of course they have the Color Genesis. That's the one that I was telling you about. The Color Genesis, like I love Color Genesis, but it does not. If you want fast coloration, it's not the food for you. If you want longer, good looking, nice skin, bright colors longer, you feed this stuff. But I'll be really honest with you. I have fed it and it takes about a month to start noticing actual, coloration. By the 3rd month, your koi look really nice. I have a Kikokuro that usually stays really orange. Feeding that stuff turns deep red and looks great. Really, really nice. And then of course we have the sinking. If you have skimmers and you're losing a lot of koi food, just use the sinking. It goes to the bottom. You don't lose, any of that. So that way they go to the koi, not to your skimmer. But you guys are welcome to whatever you guys want to take. Go ahead and, give it a try, if you like it.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a gift, thank you very much.
Oh, thank
So now
you.
you have your own Fiesta.